And today my reflection is basically painful truths about relationships, painful truths about relationships. And it's just things that I've come to discover over time that at times you don't want to be told, but they are truths and we have to be able to accommodate them. Because many a times we hide our heads in the sand and we assume that our marriages or relationships work in a particular way, yet there's absolute truth that we have to be able to look at, and I've seen people in my office and I tell them that this is not the way things are done, or this is the end result, and someone gets a bit destabilized saying, I never knew. So these are just painful truths that I've come to discover over time that will help you, dear listener, to get your head out of the sand. Number one, dear listener, is that you are not the medicine to your partner's issues. You're not the medicine to your partner's issues. That is a truth, dear listener, and a bitter truth at that. Because many a times we assume that we are the remedy to the problem that our spouses have or our partners have. People get into relationships assuming that they are projects. That I'm going to fix my partner, or I'm going to work on my partner, or if they have not been able to succeed in 10 relationships and they'll succeed with me. They have gone through 5 divorces and I'm the lucky charm. There is nothing like a lucky charm, dear listener. There is nothing about you being the medicine to your partner's issue. If you find a person with issues, they have issues. And there are people beyond you who can help them solve their issues. One of them is not you. So you must understand that, dear listener, you are not the medicine to your partner's issues. You have never been, you will never be. If you are marrying an alcoholic, they will remain to be alcoholics, dear listener. They won't stop being alcoholics because they got married to you. You are not medicine. Number 2, this is very important. Your family is not from heaven and your partner's family from hell. Your family is not from heaven and your partner's family is from hell. One of the saddest truths a marriage should be able to understand. I've had people saying in my office, Victor, I came from a stable family. Victor, I came from a family that worked. I came from a family that was this way. Dear listener, remember something. That if you really came from a very perfect family, then you would have married another person who comes from a very perfect family. By virtue you married someone who came from a dysfunctional family, tells you that your family had a dysfunction that was hidden. Because in families, there are 2 types of dysfunctions. There is an open dysfunction and a hidden dysfunction. Now, many people assume that because they come from a family with a hidden dysfunction, which they never got to see, yet they are a walking testimony of the same, they assume that because my partner, the father and the mother were always fighting, they were from an imperfect family. Yet you, your father and your mother were fighting in a different way. So you must understand that your family is not from heaven. And this is what hurts the most in relationships, dear listener. When one partner believes that how their mother did things was the best, how her father did things was the best, how his dad ran the home was the best. The moment you enter into a marriage believing that your family is better or superior than your partner in how they do things, my dear, you've set yourself up for World War VII. Because one time your partner will snap and will say, let me go back to my family that is dysfunctional. You go back to your perfect one. Your family is not perfect. Don't assume it's perfect. There are many things you don't know. There are many things you will never know. And I like saying this because I've seen people in my office who assume that they had very good family and things were balanced. But if you look at how they approach life, their emotional intelligence, their maturity, you question. So it is important to know that your family is not from heaven and your partners not from hell. Number 3, this is the one that normally causes a riot every time I say it. Silent treatment is a sign of emotional immaturity. Ndiyo nimesema. Silent treatment is a sign of emotional immaturity. You cannot claim to have matured emotionally, yet the only way you can solve conflict is by stonewalling the other person. The only way you can solve conflict is by hiding and keeping quiet and blocking the other person. You cannot argue and say you're emotionally mature. Wewe si mtu mzima. In terms of emotions, haujakoma. Because someone who has matured emotionally knows how to process emotions even in times of conflict. They know how to responsibly communicate the issue, to separate issues and find a conclusion. But if you find that you cannot separate issues, that you got mad because someone came home late, or you got mad because they forgot your birthday or something, and you keep quiet for 3 weeks, Apart from being the most emotional thing, it is the most selfish thing you can ever do. So it's not a sign of emotional maturity. You're not punishing your partner or teaching your partner a lesson by giving them silent treatment. Instead, you're exposing to your partner how much of a child you still are. I said it's painful truths about relationships. Number 4, dear listener, marriage comes before children. In other words, I'll say this: children will go. Children will go. And it's important to understand that, because many people get into marriage believing that the children are more important in the marriage than the marriage itself. Nothing is further from the truth. The moment children work at number 1, the marriage will fail. Marriage is one of the most selfish institutions that God made, because marriage does not work at number 2. Marriage only succeeds when it's number 1. When marriage is number 2 in any situation, that marriage will always fail. A marriage never works second. It can't work second to your religion. It can't work second to your faith. It can't work second to your bank account, to your career, to your in-laws, to your friends, to your children. Marriage does not know how to be number 2. The moment you put marriage number 2, my dear friends, then the end is near. Marriage works at number 1. It comes before children. Marriage becomes before your career. Marriage comes before your family. Marriage comes before your job. Marriage works at number 1. The moment you said I do, you had a decision at that point to forego all other number 1s for marriage to take number 1. Number 5, before I go on this very short break, dear listener, time is not a healer but a bank that will give you interest. Tuache kudanganyana in our relationships that the unresolved issues in our relationships will be healed by time. Unresolved issues in our relationships are not healed by time. They are healed by addressing them. They are healed by forgiveness. They are healed by reconciliation, deliberate reconciliation. Why are we in a situation whereby now we are hearing things are going south in the country? People are, there's a lot of violence within the homes now. People taking their own lives and the lives of their families. Why is this happening, dear listener? It is happening because there are many issues that were left behind. And the one that broke the camel's back is the one that now leads people to do these things. So we realize that things have been happening in the marriage for 15 years and we have never dealt with them because thought that time will heal us. Time has never healed anyone, my dear friends. Time is a bank and it will give you interest one day. One day it will give you interest. You must remember that, dear listener. As you go on this short break, as you come back, I will give you the remaining ones, dear listener. Stay tuned. This is Waumini Soul Food. I'm Victor Salamba, dear listener, and I'm talking about, dear listener, bitter truths about relationships. Bitter truths about relationships. Things we don't want to hear, but they're actually very, 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 very true for us to be able to just look at, dear listener. And this reflection will be available on my Facebook page within the course of the day, dear listener. So stay tuned, dear listener. My Facebook page is Victor Salamba. You'll find it there. Number 6. Now this is where we get to the serious stuff. We are now getting to the serious issues. Number 6 is this, dear listener. Prayer works, but work makes a marriage work. Prayer works, but work makes a marriage work. This I'm saying because there are people who believe that when they're in marriage, the only thing that can fix their marriage is prayer. So you find that people are spending so much time in prayer and forgetting that the marriage actually needs you to work on it. The marriage needs you to work on it. Prayer gives you the grace. Prayer gives you the strength. Prayer gives you the wisdom. But my dear friends, the practicality of making the marriage work requires work. That's what I'm saying. Prayer works, but work makes a marriage work. I've had people I tell people, do this. Go talk to your partner like this. Take your partner here. Tell your partner this. Wanaambia, Victor, nitaomba tu. Nitaomba Mungu atafungua njia. But the reality is that your partner, dear listener, if they want you to hold their hand, they want you to hold their hand. If they want Jesus to hold their hand, they know where Jesus is found. But at times we forget that a marriage requires work. I'm not undermining prayer. And I say this every time. I'm a man who believes in prayer. I believe that prayer works. I believe prayer is an important part of making a marriage work because of the grace that is required and the grace we need to love each and every day. But my dear friends, we just don't stop at prayer. A marriage is not solved only in the war room. You have to come out of the war room and be practical. You have to come out of that war room and do things that are real. You can't disappear for consecutive caches and leave your partner at home and you're saying you're praying for your partner. That does not make sense. You can't be away a whole night praying for your partner who's in the house. That is not making the marriage work. So you have to understand that prayer works, but work makes a marriage work. The next point is this, dear listener. That this is a very sad truth, that some marriages just can't be saved. Haki nimesema. Some marriages just can't be saved. Some relationships are just not worth fighting for. Na hiyo ni ukweli. Tuache uongo ingine, I have seen from experience, there comes a time we look at a relationship and you see a couple wanting to get married and you wonder, what are they fighting for? There is nothing here. Absolutely nothing. This is hell on earth, and I don't even think that they'll be given sainthood for what they're going to go through. At times, there's some marriages that have gone to a place where they're so inhumane. They're so inhumane that they just can't be saved. So at times, also be realistic. At times, one of the saddest truths, and I'm saying this for those who are in very abusive marriages, where inhumane acts are being done to you, and you're saying that hiyo ni msalaba Mungu alikupea. I want to be very honest. There is a level of abuse as a human being you just cannot take. And that is when I'm saying some marriages just can't be saved. It's a sad truth. At times you can find you with a partner who is always sleeping around. Na amekupea STIs, STDs, nini. You know, I had a lady in my office once who the husband had so many affairs, and finally she got an infection that she had to remove her entire uterus. And I asked her a question. I asked her, even though we say till death do us part, he yako is suicide, because this person is not changing. While she's in surgery, he's with the house help. My dear friends, some marriages just can't be saved. And if it comes to a place where it is literally your life on the line, I am saying this without fear of contradiction, that, dear listener, it is not possible for you, it's not practical for you to say you're staying. Inafika mahali you sit and you realize, actually, I don't think this one can be saved. It's a bitter truth. But I'm saying for those that, when your life is in imminent danger, your life is in direct danger, it's good to realize that the river has broken the bank. The next one is this, the final point, personal favorite. Your partner is a reflection of your wisdom in choosing a spouse. Your partner is a reflection of your wisdom in choosing a spouse. Look at your partner from head to toe. Mfikirie kabisa. My dear friends, that is your wisdom in choosing a spouse. Translation is, before you point a finger at how bad your spouse is, ask yourself a question. Why did I end up with such a bad person? What does it say about me? That is the first question to ask. Kuna watu wanataka kurusha mawe pahali wako, but ni sawa. The truth is that you have to ask yourself this question. If this woman is so wicked, how did I fall in love with a wicked person? Why am I attracted to wickedness? I must ask myself that question. Because your partner, dear listener, is a reflection of your wisdom in choosing a spouse. That is a truth, and it's a bitter truth. So before we call our partners names, you must realize every name you call your partner, you are attracted to a person with that character. What does that say about us? And that is a truth I like to address, dear listener. And lastly, dear listener, remember, unfortunately, you married someone who has their own identity, has their own brain, has their own way of doing things. Your partner is different from you. They will never be like you. They shall never be like you. And they don't desire to be like you. So you must know and respect how they operate and how they work. Your partner is not like you, is never like you, does not want to be like you. And you must learn to respect and accept that. Dear listener, that is the morning reflection on 88.3 FM. This is Waumini Soul Food. I am Victor Salamba, dear listener. This reflection will be available on my page, Victor Salamba, within the course of the day.